Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to talk about China and India in the world order. And this is a Chinese perspective, not mine, not yours. We need to know what our adversary thinks. The first quotient of any plan is to know, get the intelligence of what the other man thinks. That's what I'm doing on this New Year's Day. But having said New Year's Day, at the outset, I'd like to thank everyone who's been on Gunner Shot as a member, as a subscriber, and as a loyal audience. And I see many of them. I see Kumar, who's joined me as a new member. Thank you, Kumar. And I see Amitesh Behra, who's always there. Uh, Happy New Year to you, Amitesh and Akash. Right. But having said this, from my side, a very, very, very happy new year to all of you. So I said, look, New Year, let's start with our biggest issue, China. There are a lot of people who say, I talk too much about China, but I feel I'm one of the few guys who talk about China, so let me talk about it. Okay, let's get going. The first issue. What is the thing which Chinese feel about India? Or what is their outlook about India? They feel that there's a complete lack of trust, and they have a lack of trust in us, and we have a lack of trust in them. So we don't trust each other. So if you don't trust each other, the world order is set as it is. Antagonism in this world order, lack of trust, mistrust, whatever. They also feel that China and India share a lot of similarities. We're both developing countries, civilizational nations, and all that. But we also have very sharp differences regarding the international order and what it should be. Because China feels it's a global order, India feels no, China feels it's the sole power in Asia. We feel no, it is multipolar. Even the globe is multipolar, and there are issues. We are rising at our speed. They've risen, but they're also declining and stagnating. They're flattening out. They're going to stagnate. On that, I've never had a doubt. But they think they're not. They have reached the top, and they feel that their competition was with USA. So all those things are there, but there's a parallel rise, and a parallel rise poses a unique problem, and this is what our external affairs minister said. Right now, around the time when Kazan and a little later, there's the website called Guancha. Right, Guancha is a news portal. Ah, no. Yeah, Lieutenant General, you forgot to mention about me. Why? No, Jack, you're all great guys. And so is it with Arup and Manivan. And India is not an equal opponent. Yeah, that's also their view. There's no doubt about it. So I don't forget anyone. I just didn't see your comment. That's about all. So, right. So don't feel bad about it. Right. Uh, so let's talk about this article. Why did I take this article? This actually article is a little old. The the translation of this article is 10 years of Modi from a Chinese perspective. What's 10 years of Modi given to this thing? It came in June. But very significantly, last month they republished it in Guancha. And Guancha is a very influential tabloid in China. And it takes talks only of China. Okay. Oh yeah, I see. On the New Year, Shritik has also joined. Thanks a lot, Shritik, and also thanks a lot, Kumar, once again for joining me as members. Right. So it's a tabloid which, like I said, pro China. Nothing against China comes on this. Nationalist completely. So this article came and I translated it. So I'll present what they said because that sets the tone for what they feel about India and the international order. I mean, in the beginning, this article talks of China and India relations before Mr. Modi assumed power. He says at that time there was cooperation and competition, right? It both. But cooperation was the main stream of the relations. I mean, this English is a bit of the Chinese English. So it was a translated English. It's not my English. I'm reproducing it to you for you to understand this story. So cooperation is the mainstream of the thing. So they feel it was cooperation at the global level, competition at regional level, but control differences at the bilateral level. It's a very nuanced approach before that. Now, what happened after that? He says, as to summarize, a decade of Modi's rule. He says confrontation at global, regional, and bilateral. So it's moved from cooperation at global level, competition at regional level, control differences to confrontation. So there's antagonism. So if you think they're going to be happy with you, no, as much as we are unhappy with them, they're going to be unhappy with them. And this is what we have to understand. They view that India is confronting them. They want India not to confront them but be subservient to them. That's the point. Now, he describes this whole thing in three phases in this article. He talks of the phase one, which is called the dragon and the elephant dance from 2013 to 2017. 2017 is the time when um, Doklam happened. He says this is a period of expectation and disappointment of both sides. What's the expectation? 2013, Xi Jinping had taken over. 2014, Modi had taken over. China had put forward the BRI. I still remember they said, "Look, if you don't like BRI and we don't like CPEC, we'll give you a new term for, especially for India." And that time in China was at its peak. Then when Modi got elected, they say that there was a lot of expectation in China. That's why Xi Jinping came and Modi went, and a lot of happiness. You see the last line. He says Modi's first visit to China in 2014 aroused the unprecedented enthusiasm of Chinese businessmen to invest in India. Lot of hopes, but it turned into disappointment. Why? There were confrontation at Depsang and Demchok. They call it confrontation, but actually they ingressed. You see the way they're playing things. So then they felt that look, India's attitude towards Belt and Road was negative. It was because we didn't it the BRI, especially in CPEC, uh, was against our interests completely. They shouldn't have got into POK. It's just disputed territory. It's Indian territory. Then the disappointment was because of the increased cooperation of India with Japan and USA. While we were cooperating with others, they didn't have a problem. It was Japan and USA they had a problem. They felt pressure that we were asking them to join, or rather, uh, their pressure was being put on them to allow India to join the NSG, Nuclear Supply Group, and also designate Jaish-e-Mohammed as the terrorist list. That is that Azhar Masood. He says in this context, their thinking is in 2017, India crossed into Bhutan and stopped China from doing what it had to do in their territory. So around 2016-17, says India undermined the existing consensus reached with China. So from happiness, cooperation, control differences, we've come to confrontation. But he says phase two is 2018-19, this post Doklam phase. He says the bilateral relations, unexpectedly restarted. Why did they restart? Because Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi met in Wuhan. Some kind of a mechanism was established. There was a model of exchange or a framework for exchange of diplomatic trade and military relations was put in place. Right? Right. Rather, the Sino-Indian military exchange mechanism and working level communication mechanisms were restored. But the restart process, as per him, was fragile. And he says 2019, there were indications by the Modi government. I mean, look at it from their point of view again, that they wanted, he wanted to, Mr. Modi wanted to adjust our policy with China and bring it down to stabilization. That is the time when RIC was being spoken, Russia, India, China. So the idea was to stabilize relations with Russia, China from the Indian perspective. All this was happening up to 2019. So then what went wrong as per their perception? Breakdown. In the 10 years, so the first phase till 2014 to 17, 18, 19, now 19 onwards, the breakdown. And this is when the COVID started and the ingress. But the breakdown, as per him, didn't start with Galwan and things like that. It started before. It started when we went towards the Indo-Pacific strategy. By then, there were 4 5 incursions, right? And then, of course, they took this. This keeps coming up in all their writings. Fundamentally, I feel it is Article 370 which triggered the problem. That's why he's written. He says abolition of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution and the abolition of the special status of the Indian controlled Kashmir region, which broke the status quo in the western section of China India border and directly challenged and infringed on the sovereign rights and interests of Pakistan and China. Very interesting. This 370 infringed on the sovereign and territorial rights and interests of Pakistan and China. There's collusion here, there's antagonism against India here, direct, that we have threatened their sovereignty. So that's where the breakdown started. It didn't start with Galwan and Eastern Ladakh. We have to understand this. That's why I brought this 10 years of Modi into perspective. Because most of us tend to see whatever we are doing with China in the current perspective. You have to go back and you have to see what the other fellow thinks about you. Before you say, yeah, nee, wo piche hat gaya, we have become the kings and he will listen to us. He is not going to listen to you. This is the story. Okay. Then he describes the deterioration after Galwan. What happened on June 15, 2020? He mentions this date. He says India broke the consensus, right? And which the consensus of India, Sino-Indian military commanders meeting, we deliberately provoked and violently attacked the Chinese, their officers, soldiers, who were negotiating on the spot. That's in Galwan. We caused physical clashes between the two armies and serious casualties to them. Here they don't say that they, assaulted us and all. Somewhere here they say we assaulted them, and we caused casualties on them, and they retaliated. Is it a tacit admission of their casualties? I think so. And then they're worried about the snow leopard Kailash range operation, where we crossed the south bank of Pangongsu, went up, and they talk of it as negotiation leverage by expanding the dispute. So, in sum, India's move not only destroyed the gradually cooling down India's Sino-Indian border situation, but it worsened it. So you're coming now down to 2020, 4 years back. Look again. So mutual level confrontation, global level Indo-Pacific confrontation, regional level confrontation. So the tone of confrontation is very evident by 2020. And what's more, they feel, look, India entered into a defense alliance with United States. They view our relationship with USA as an alliance. Look, that has a very important bearing on the world order. We don't consider USA our ally. We consider it as a strategic partner where we have strategic autonomy. But the Chinese view it as an alliance. They say we are fully part of the Indo-Pacific strategy with USA, Japan, and Australia to deter China and contain China. Very clear. And then this fellow goes around says he talks of high-profile decoupling measures. What is it? Prohibiting Chinese enterprises from investing and participating in Indian infrastructure projects, taking tariff or non-tariff barrier measures to boycott Chinese goods, banning more than 300 mobile phone applications, including TikTok, and frequently taking small actions on issues such as Taiwan, Tibet, and South China Sea. So he's brought the whole gamut in. And just think, here you are trying to negotiate with China. You come to a modus vivendi on LAC, disengagement is taking place, de-escalation is taking place, and all those nonsense, right? And they publish this article, which squarely blames you. So what is their thinking? I mean, it lays bare the Chinese thought process, and this is by a pretty well renowned character. And we also issued visas, or rather refused visas to Chinese so that they can travel to India. And he also quotes that we have arrested Chinese citizens in India on spying and fabricated charges and all that. That's the Vivo people and Xiaomi and all that. He's invoked all this after the time when we are looking at peace, and some of our great bureaucrats and some of our people in our government are asking them to come here. We are asking them to come and invest here and open doors and all that, and they are writing this. Like I said, this is a pretty influential. Guancha is a pretty influential, uh, tabloid. This is almost the summary. The overall situation of China-India relations has been seriously damaged by the Indian side. Very clear. Gap, this is the operative part of the international order. He says, gap in strength between the two sides continues to widen, making the Indian ally extremely unconfident in front of China. So we are not confident in front of China, and then forming a paranoia that China wants to harm India everywhere. And why is all this being done? And through Guancha. Guancha is read extensively in USA, incidentally, and many places. The the founder of Guancha is someone who studied in Stanford. This bloody Chinese went and studied in Stanford, came back and established this nationalistic tabloid which spews venom against everyone, and it's influential. So when you don't read beyond what is given, and all this is in Chinese, incidentally, then he talks China has grown into a world power. Okay? While India is still a regional power as a whole. Space for cooperation has decreased, and competition and confrontation in the region have increased. So you know where you are in the world order already. isn't it? So this 10 years of Modi has put things in perspective. So that's the first thing which all of you need to understand. Then this is in South China Morning Post. Again, a very interesting article. Have a look at it. I'll make it closer. Okay. Uh, he says in this is an opinion. He says, besides the border, four issues obstruct warmer China-India ties. Okay, what are these four? I called them out. He says transformation in the international order. Now, China is not happy with the international order led by USA, and they call it unfair. Okay, and they also feel that uh, I mean, they state that China seeks to reshape the global governance through BRICS, SCO, and global initiatives. And he says China is the biggest driving force to change the international order. And it's trying to do the way it wants it, the way they want an international order. And they also feel in this that India is a kebab mein haddi. Let's be very clear about that. And it talks about in this transforming international order, this chap says India, on the other hand, while China wants to seek a new global order through SCO and BRICS, and it wants India as part of that global order under China. India seeks a permanent seat in UN, and very clearly they said China is opposed to it, and China will not let us get this permanent seat. In my view, China's rise is a disruptive force in the international order. And very clearly, India feels and the world feels that China's rise and its ambition to lay down its own world order is a threat to global, regional, and local peace and stability. We know that. Okay. So, this is the first thing. The second thing is, he says the international order might be disintegrating, but a new one has yet to take shape. In this, he says India feels that US will win against China, and hence it supports the West against China and to contain it in the Indo-Pacific. And India's real motive to seize the opportunity among the chaos for its own rise and its own interests. So India is opportunistic in this frame of thinking. Now, very funnily, typically Chinese, he says China neither envisions nor seeks a defeat of the US or the West. But it will not tolerate any crossing of its red lines in Taiwan and Xinjiang. So Xinjiang and Taiwan are not negotiable as per them. And then, of course, the normal thing which China always says, it needs peaceful coexistence, global community with shared future. The global community with shared future is their byline for the Sino-centric world order. So, there is a transformation in the international order. The old order is disintegrating, but the new one is not yet taken shape, and China wants to drive that. So, the thing is clear, and they feel that India is trying to do what it wants to do and being opportunistic. And India wants to puncture China's efforts. Okay. The international order is multipolar. The third point he makes. Now, this multipolar order is understood differently by China and India. It's a fact. India insists on a multipolar Asia. And here he gives a subterfuge. No, China doesn't, mind a multipolar Asia. We don't speak of it. I mean, China doesn't speak of a multipolar Asia because that's also a reality. What they don't say is that reality is everyone else can be multipolar in Asia except China, which is the biggest pole. China also, in this article, it says that's the thinking. The thinking is coming out in this. The spheres of influence and all is nonsense. Oh, China doesn't have a sphere of influence in Western Pacific. Obviously, it doesn't have a sphere of influence because it is antagonized everyone. It has got trade relations with Asia, but it has got adverse relations with Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Taiwan, and all militarily. So it doesn't have a sphere of influence. It's got a sphere of trade, right? So China doesn't have. When China says there's no sphere of influence, so why should India have a sphere of influence in the Indian Ocean region and in South Asia or in the subcontinent? So China is fully at liberty to enter India's sphere of influence because it doesn't exist. It doesn't recognize India's sphere of influence. Please understand this. We're talking the global order. China doesn't recognize our sphere of influence in our area, so it wants to enter everywhere and protect its interests, establish its interests and protect it. And that's what it has been doing for the past 25 years. I'm now going back before 10 years of Modi. I'm going back from 2000, the string of pearls and all that. So you see, the kind of a world order China envisions, where India fits in only in Asia. China is a global power. It will vie with USA, establish its own Sino-centric world order. India has to be subservient to it. Is this what we want? Let's see the fourth point. Talk of global South and leadership. Why global South? We have to understand. China has been kicked virtually out of Middle East after this whole story. Israel, Syria, Iran, the way things have gone, it has got no leg to stand on in diplomatically. Militarily, it's never there. Economically, something will be there. But now, everyone in the Middle East will swing towards USA. No leg to stand on. Europe, it doesn't have a leg to stand on, or it's a shaky thing. China is now going to get after. It's not China. USA is going to get after China. So what is left? Global South. So China wants to seek global South to revive its fortunes. Now here, there's a new story which is coming out. China and the vast majority of global South countries therefore share a common revolutionary friendship against imperialism and common colonialism. Tum bye bye to Africa and all, because they were all in colonial states under imperialism, and there's a revolutionary streak in them. We'll help you. We also went through the same problems. He says, on the other hand, India is positioning itself as a global leader of the global South, what with our actions in G20, and we've held 3 Voice of Global South summits where we called leaders of the global South and spoke to them, and they understand that we have excluded China because China has held summits of the Indian Ocean region without India. So we are paying it back to them. So, in the global order, what's going to happen? Just think. So there is these 4 strata. So the first thing, transformation in the international order is happening. Second, international order might be disintegrating, but there's no new order in place. And that new order China wants to drive and set Okay, the international order is multipolar. This multipolar is differently understood by India and China, and the global South leadership only China can be. This is their attitude. You want to do business with them? Whoever the idiot is in the government who wants to do business with China with this kind of an attitude needs to have his head examined. And you can quote me. Yeah, this is it. This is yesterday's or today's. China's ties with global South show a different world order is possible. Please understand, China is still trying to establish a different global order, and this will bring in strife. There's no doubt as we go along, and I will. Yesterday only I spoke about it. Yesterday, at the end of the year, at 2024, I said China is limping into 2025. As it is limping into 2025, it wants to become a world leader and set a global order. So a power which is going down still has ambitions. And today morning I put out a video on how militarily China is progressing in terms of its equipment, aggressive. So there's military aggression, there's economic stagnation or decline, and there's diplomatic ambition of establishing a global order. So what are you looking at? Are you looking at peace? Are you looking at trade with China? Are you looking at fair trade with China? Someone in a government has to sit and think. And that's my view. Then they come out with this. China and India agree on a 6 point consensus after our NSA and Wang Yi met. We didn't say there's a 6 point consensus. They say. Now they're touting that there's a 6 point consensus. Now that they're touting there's a 6 point consensus, if any one of that doesn't happen, they'll say we broke the consensus. It's a one-sided consensus which they're touting. So they're already making ground for a rupture and blaming it on India. Is it any more clear clarity you need? We'll give it. I'll give it, Abhi. They have problems. Our external affairs ministers in USA, they have problems. And this is by Global Times. What does Global Times say? Mr. Shankar has gone to USA to maintain consistency in the US-India relations and ensure continuity and stability of Indo-Pacific strategy, which is against them. That's why he's gone, as per them. Okay. India's sensitivity towards China is reflected in its attitude towards initiatives like Belt and Road Initiative, border issues, and China's rising power. All this has come 4 days back. So they still feel China has a rising power and that we are antagonists against them. Of course, here he says he's realizing. There is a realization, let's be very clear, that the international status of both countries has become more significant. So if the international status of both countries, he feels he is already significant, which is so. India is also very significant. It has to be handled differently. And they don't, at every article which I've shown you today, it's from different angles. He says India remains firmly as the second largest economy and continues a steady upward trajectory. India, on the other hand, has experienced rapid growth with the potential to become the third largest country by 2030. बाद में अभी तुम्हारा time नहीं है, बाद में तब तक हम king हैं. That's the thinking. Now, there is another interesting thing by Seeker, China Institute of Contemporary Studies and International Relations. A chap writes in November, about US India defense cooperation, progress, motivation, and constraints. It's a long paper. It's about 25-30 pages. Okay. Why am I gritting all this? You would understand China where it stands and how it looks at you. And this is not airy gary publishing and airy gary talk and all. I'm showing you actual thinking of different thinkers, tabloids. They're from the heart of China, heart of Chinese thinking. What do they think of us? He's examined it in great detail. Defense cooperation between US and India has entered a fast lane. They're worried about it. We have had breakthroughs on multiple fronts, including foundational agreements, transfer of sensitive technologies, joint research and development of advanced military equipment, and interoperability exercises like Malabar and with Air Force and all that. All this is they've examined in detail. Don't think they become the second largest power without doing all this. But he says unlikely that India and US will become a alliance. They will, but it's a quasi alliance. And this is a very, 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 very interesting thing. They're talking of a quasi alliance. So we are not a partners. There's no partnership between India and China, India and USA as per them. We are an alliance. Earlier also, I told you about the alliance. Even now, defense cooperation between US and India focuses on China and creates challenges for China and its national security. This is what he says. Okay. So there's a sum of US India cooperation, how they look at it. They don't discuss the problems we're having with the USA. The Trump effect, we'll see. Maybe another month or so when Mr. Trump comes into thing, some development happens, then we'll see how the whole story goes forward. Oh, the common thinking is that we will normalize our relations and all that, isn't it? Here he is. He says, I'll construct the dam on the Big Bend. What does it mean for the ties? They're going to go down. And you want to trade with them again? Again, this question I'm going to ask. I hope someone in the government sees this video of mine. How can you trade with someone who's building a dam just across the LAC, which is going to be detrimental to your water system in Assam and Arunachal? Incidentally, today morning on New Year's Day, Mr. Sri Iyer and I have recorded a episode on the Brahmaputra Dam, this dam on Brahmaputra in Tibet. I'll put it out in a couple of days. Complete story, why they're doing it, how they're doing it, and everything will come. So wait for that to be published. Maybe by tomorrow, day after. And in this analysis, he says, of this dam only, have a look at it so that you have a see what they're talking of. China has always adhered to a responsible attitude towards the development of cross-border rivers. The development of hydropower on the lower reaches of the Yarlung Zangbo River aims to accelerate the development of clean energy, address climate change, and mitigate extreme hydrological disasters. This is a complete lie they're stating internationally. It does everything against that. And then they say we will continue to communicate with downstream countries through existing channels and strengthen cooperation on disaster prevention and mitigation to benefit the people of the river basin. You think they'll do it? They're lying through their teeth. No, if they're lying through their teeth, they consider you not a great power. They consider you in the opposite camp. Is there a scope for great cooperation with China going forth? Don't you think this peace is only tactical against India? It is tragic for some other reason. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about this because we have to understand the new paradigm of China. That's why I started the yesterday China limping. Today morning, Chinese uh, force and our capability with Sandeep Punithan. Please see it if you're not seeing it. It's a very good video. It's gone a bit viral. And now I'm talking of this. I'm talking of world order. And we'll analyze China in this new paradigm by the end of the month, and you'll see the picture which comes out and see what India has to do thereafter. Today I'm not going to do it, but down the line I'm going to talk of that. And they've now gone and established two counties in uh, Xinjiang. Aksai Chin is now under Xinjiang. It has implications. It's not simple. It's not part of Tibet anymore. This implications also I discussed with Mr. Sriyar today. So in the joint video between Ganashot and P Gurus, we'll put that out. I think by tomorrow or day after we should be putting it out. You'll understand the story there. They have a very clear plan. Of course, I'll stick my neck out. They're not going to be militarily active against India, right? And I'll justify it maybe next week. 7th, 8th, I'll do a video and explain to you. Okay, this is the thing. This entire area, this is Aksai as their map. Why they've done it and all. I've done a full analysis of it. Have a look at it. Then Pakistan is being promoted as a huge catch paw. I spoke about it last week, about 4 days back. There's increased presence, Chinese presence in Pakistan. Private contractors are coming in. Mercenaries are coming in. Gwadar is going to be a major naval base. They're exploiting or exploring to build two routes, alternate route for the CPEC, and that's going to go across Shaksgam Valley. I'll redo that whole story again once so people understand. The Pak Armed Forces, I told you, is going to be virtually a army which has got Chinese equipment. They're helping them to produce hypersonic weapons, MIRV, anti-ballistic missiles, and Bedu for navigation positioning. Very important. All this they're helping with in Pakistan. Okay, these are the two. Djibouti, this is Djibouti, right? And this is Gwadar. Have a look a little closer. I'll expand the map. Djibouti is their base. This is their, and I've always been saying that the North Arabian Sea is going to be our next Western Front, and Pakistan is being given missile capability so that it can take on Israel, US assets in Gulf or in Digagosha, and of course India. Three in one. Pak Pak Catchpaw is not just against India but more. Pak is the new North Korea or the Western North Korea or China. We have to understand this. And then, very interesting, same Guancha, 3 days back or 4 days back. Okay. Bangladesh also wants to purchase J-10C, and India is afraid to face a three-sided attack. Very important. Bangladesh complete equipment almost is from China. And Bangladesh is now negotiating with China to get more. And what he says, this whole story is in Chinese, which is, I have translated. What he says is Bangladesh Air Force was limited earlier. It didn't have, again, this is a translation of the Chinese. Okay, so the English is not very great. So Bangladesh Air Force, as per this author, was limited. And Indian Air Force didn't have to bother about it. Now that China is equipping Bangladesh with advanced fighters, India will have to take that into consideration. So India is being forced to fight on two fronts at the same time, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. That scenario has not dissipated now that China is much larger. So China has designs to pump up Bangladesh. Please understand what I'm talking of. Last line, dekho. Introduction of J-10C fighter also means that Bangladesh has a closer relationship with China, which is really unbearable and helpless for India. So China is giving you a three-front issue. And we have to understand this whole story. China might have withdrawn along the LAC, but we're going to get back to us through Pakistan and Bangladesh. And China will not run away. It's still there on the LAC. It only ceded certain ground there. So the threat from China is going to be three-sided. And we have a difficult task ahead. Let me be very clear about it. The paradigm has changed. That's why I said when I discussed why I discussed Pakistan, have a look at it again. The threat from Pakistan is no more of a poor nation which is being attacked by Taliban. वो सब होता रहेगा. There is a rich Pakistan which is dangerous to us. There's this Bangladesh which is coming up as a toxic nation. Both are being supported by China. And you've seen the Chinese attitudes. How do you handle this whole story? So now this is the world order which is going to unfold this year. Am I being alarmist? I'm not giving any alarms. This is what the Chinese have said and have done. We have to be ready for this. Are we ready for it? Yes and no. See the video which I put out in the morning on Indian response to China's great leap forward. You'll understand. They will have a long way to go. Am I worried about it? I'm not. Let me be very honest. I'm not worried about what China is doing. We'll handle it. We're a confident nation. We'll handle it. We have the capability to handle it. We need to have the confidence to handle it and plan for it. If you don't plan for it, then you are a sucker. That's a different story. Right? Okay. So this is what I wanted to tell you today on the New Year's Day. Once again, wishing all of you a happy New Year. I would like to thank everyone who's taken time on the New Year to come and see this video. I'm going to have a lot of videos, very interesting contemporary videos in the changing world order. We're going to talk about India's regional trajectory tomorrow with General Dushyant. What are our national security challenges coming ahead with General KJ? I'm going to talk with General Rajiv Narayanan later on Monday about what are the big 10 or 12 big things which we have to be worried about. Let's get the whole thing first clear and then see what we have to do. And then, of course, I'm going to do this analysis of China's geopolitical and military situation, and then we'll see as to how what we have to do. Okay, right. Thanks. We have about 10 minutes more, and I'm going to take a few questions. Uh, and Okay, some issue. Yeah. So great analysis and discussion. Thank you. JBJP, you're coming after a long time. Thanks for coming back. మాది ఉగాది వస్తుంది శంకర్ గారు. థ్యాంక్స్ అ లాట్ పవన్. మాది ఉగాది గారు వస్తుంది. ఓకే, రైట్. Now let me see from the top. So I saw Alibaba app in Play Store, and just to make sure it was a Chinese app, I tried it and successful. And installing it and browsing some products. Fortunately, TikTok still banned. Yeah, yes, I guess so. It would appear that the Chinese are complaining about the Bharat awakening, and that we have taken stock of circumstances facing us, followed with proactive action. To some extent, you're right. They know that we are up to it, but we need to do more. That's why I said watch today's morning, the one which I did with Sandeep. It was a very powerful panel. It was Mr. Sandeep Punithan of News 9 anchoring it, Mr. J.D. Patil, who was in the L&T board, self, and Air Marshal Diptendu Chaudhary, who was the Commandant NDC. We've given very strong views. Have a look at it. Yeah, India cannot be the leader of the global south when in China is around. Do you think China would allow India to lead the global south? Of course not. Go to hell. Tell China to go to hell. Okay, that's the way I say. It can do what it wants. Who's China to allow India what to do or not? He's not our gatekeeper. Okay. Has Chinese influence in Bangladesh increased, decreased, or remained unchanged since August? It has increased. Yeah, please see YouTube cast on Chanakya dialogue on SSS Defense Factory in Bangalore. You may like it and may have some comments. I understand what the SSS Defense Factory is talking of and his issues, but there's an official reason to it. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of both. But I think we need to give him a fair chance. That I'm very clear. Uh, okay. What to make of sixth generation fighter jet news? What are your views? Is it hot air? I'll talk of it later separately. That's a full thing. I'll talk what we need to do there. I have some views on it, but I'm not bothered. At this point of time, it's a lot of PR exercise. Will it turn into a reality? We'll see. In fact, Friday I'm going to do another show with TV 9, News 9 Plus on this aspect also. So I'm not worried about it. In any case, the sixth generation fighter won't change the India China equation. Yeah, you have we have very poor transport and communication routes with Northeast India. Do you think we are? No, no, we don't have. We have very good. A lot of things have improved. The fact that what you're saying we don't have very good communication routes is a thing of the past. I don't agree with you. Understand this. Your knowledge and goal of discourse is geopolitics and strategies, but you may like to do a nut and bolt story on Atmanirbhar Bharat and defense manufacturing. I'm planning to do that. I'll do it. I'll do it. I have no issue with you. In fact, that is my strength, really speaking, Arunachal. I started off with that, but I've gone into geopolitics. Do you think some of our businessmen have stashed money away in China that they are compelled to do business with China? Possible. Anything is possible in this business. Sharad Subhadra. I have one question. Are Chinese bases along LAC on our short range missile range? Yes, I think so. Excellent analysis of Chinese strategy versus India. Thanks a lot, Ravi. So honored that you could give me this thing on New Year's Day. It enthuses me. Please give this to all your friends. Ask all your friends to join Gunner Shot, because the more people join Gunner Shot, the more enlightened we will be. Uh, like I'm not a tabloid. I don't make unsubstantiated remarks. And mostly I look at the Pakistan angle and the Chinese angle from their perspective, and I let all the guests who come on my channel to do give the Indian perspective. If you noticed, okay. So in the intelligence, the first thing is always the enemy. So I try to give the enemy perspective always, which is important. Unless you know what your enemy is all about, you're out. You may like to do a story on IIT Madras to do a follow up of Atmanirbhar and defense manufacturing. I'll do it. I'll do it. I have no doubt. Uh, yeah, wishing you a happy new year and also a happy new. Thanks a lot, Jack. Honored. So grateful to you for this contribution on New Year's. Jai Hind, General six sub six generation की tsunami से आई हुई. China is far behind US. We are just behind from. No, no, we are not behind of China on any issue. I don't believe, and I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it in larger platforms. I'm going to talk about it in TVN News 9 on Friday, and I'll put that up. You know me, I'm different. Uh, okay, how much should India turn to Quad to meet Bangla Pak challenge, given that US did regime change in Dhaka, which is now being exploited by China? Then doesn't this betray the basis for Quad? Look, to some extent you're right, Manaspan, but there are issues which I think will change. Just wait later this month, you'll see a change happening. I think that's the way I look at it. So don't worry about it as of now. Sir, your News 9 show on Indian Air Force was awesome. It was a very powerful episode and must watch, no sugarcoating, very honest analysis. That's what you'll get from me always. I'll speak the truth, the way I look at it. Okay. Why don't you do a show on artillery and equipment manufacturing in India since you headed art? I've done that. I've done 2, 3 times. Have a look at it. It's there. In, I've done it on print also. Yeah. Onada, Jai Hind, Saab, Happy New Year, Jai Bharat. Same to you also, Srinivas. Kritik, Bangladesh Army Chief says China has invested in us and they're very important for us. Whilst with India, they have a good give and take relationship. Talk about being ungrateful. Yeah, I agree with you, Shritik. We have a problem there. We have to sort it out. That's why the last program I did with General Hasnain on Bangladesh, I did it with a purpose. I did it with the purpose that I said, let someone else come and speak about Bangladesh to Bangladeshis. That's also not worked. So we have to take some hard decisions. I hope the government starts thinking of it. And maybe sometime later this month we'll talk about it again. Let things evolve. This month is critical because a lot of things are going to happen. Does Bangladesh situation reflect some kind of failure of our intelligence agencies, the sudden collapse of the security situation there? I don't think so. I don't think so because I think it's a major culture issue which we knew. We always knew that Bangladesh people in the radical element in Bangladesh will not be helpful to us. We knew it. That's why we backed Hasina. Unfortunately, things didn't work out. These things happen in geopolitics. It's not new. Just go back. Iran. Uh, the US backed the Shah of Iran and had complete Iran in its pocket till the revolution took place. And they were also taken by surprise. Same thing here. These things happen in geopolitics. Let's take the good with the bad and not start blaming everyone. The idea now is to look ahead to see what we can do. That's the point, right? Okay. We've done for the day. Thanks a lot. There's one guy called Indian Mastiff who is, I'm very clear, either a Pakistani or a Chinese troll. I'm ignoring him. I'm just making a mention at the end so that he knows that we're not fools and that he's spewing nonsense. Please don't get taken in by him. With this, thanks a lot. Join in tomorrow evening. Uh, we're going to discuss something very interesting. We're going to talk about India's regional trajectory with General Dushyant Singh. Till then, good evening, Jai Hind, and happy 2025 once again to all of you. Good night.